The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has reportedly informed the Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, that she is considering raising income tax as part of the upcoming budget announcement on November 26th. We'll dive into this story in today's video, but before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Right now, only 12% of viewers are subscribed, so join the community and help us grow. This revelation, confirmed last night, marks one of the clearest indications yet that the Labour government could be preparing to break its election pledge not to increase the main taxes that affect working people. In a formal letter to the OBR, Ms. Reeves outlined a series of major measures being assessed ahead of the fiscal statement, and the inclusion of an income tax rise among them has sent ripples through Westminster and the financial markets alike. The OBR is expected to deliver its impact assessment on Monday, the penultimate step in the forecasting process before the budget is finalized. While the Times reports that Ms. Reeves could still decide against going ahead with the rise, its presence in official submissions suggests that serious planning is already underway. If enacted, the move would make Rachel Reeves the first Chancellor in 50 years to raise the basic rate of income tax, reportedly by 2 percentage points. At the same time, she is understood to be considering a cut to national insurance contributions for those earning under £50,270, reducing the rate from 8% to 6%. Above that threshold, the 2% rate would remain unchanged. Economists are calling this a two-up, two-down fiscal trade-off, an approach that would see the tax burden shift away from lower earners and towards pensioners and landlords. The proposal fits Labour's long-standing narrative that those with the broadest shoulders should bear the heaviest load. Analysts suggest such a change could raise around £6 billion a year, though that would only cover roughly a fifth of the estimated £30 billion black hole in Britain's public finances. Some, including the influential National Institute of Economic and Social Research, argue that the true gap could be closer to £50 billion, meaning Reeves may need to go even further in her fiscal tightening. Earlier this week, Ms. Reeves delivered a pre-budget statement in which she outlined the broad direction of the government's economic policy, but notably stopped short of confirming any rise in income tax. That hesitation, however, did little to calm the markets. The pound slipped against both the euro and the dollar, while the FTSE 100 turned downward, reflecting investor unease about the Treasury's fiscal strategy and its implications for growth. Economist Richard Potts of Bomford put it bluntly. Perhaps the most significant takeaway from Reeves's speech was what she didn't say. Her refusal to repeat Labour's election promises not to raise income tax, VAT, or national insurance spoke volumes. Economically, leaving those options open is rational, but politically it's perilous. Trust in government is already fragile, and voters remember broken promises. Potts added that markets were unconvinced by Reeves's insistence that current fiscal pressures were unforeseeable, describing that justification as a cop-out that likely contributed to sterling's immediate dip. Politically, the fallout has already begun within Labour's own ranks. The party's newly appointed deputy leader, Lucy Powell, has publicly urged the government to honour its manifesto commitment not to raise income tax, national insurance, or VAT. Breaking that pledge, she warned, could further erode trust in politics, an area already under strain after years of volatility and voter skepticism. Meanwhile, the Bank of England has issued its own stark warning. Its Monetary Policy Committee said yesterday that mounting fears of higher taxes are already weighing on the economy. Consumer spending and business investment have both dipped in recent weeks as companies brace for what some are calling the nightmare before Christmas budget. The bank noted that firms are delaying investment decisions amid very high levels of uncertainty, with overall economic uncertainty now near its highest point since late 2022. A Treasury spokesperson responded by emphasizing that the Chancellor remains focused on building strong foundations for Britain's future. In their words, the Chancellor has set out the context for the budget, recognizing both global and long-term challenges. The government's priorities remain clear: cutting waiting lists, reducing the national debt, and easing the cost of living. As the countdown to November 26 continues, all eyes will be on whether Rachel Reeves chooses to take the politically risky step of raising income tax, and, if she does, how she balances that decision with her promise to protect working families. What's certain is that the stakes, economic, political, and public, could hardly be higher. In other news, a man who was mistakenly released from HMP Wandsworth has turned himself in after a 4-day manhunt. Billy Smith was accidentally released from the southwest London prison on Monday. Surrey police has now confirmed he turned himself back in at the same prison. Officers are continuing their efforts to track down Algerian national Bram Kaddour Sharif, 24, mistakenly released from the same prison on October 29. A spokesman from Surrey police said, "We are cancelling our appeal to help find wanted 35-year-old William Smith, who was released in error from HMP Wandsworth on Monday, November the 3rd. Smith handed himself in to HMP Wandsworth today. According to ITV News, which filmed his return, he was accompanied by his partner, whom he hugged before speaking to prison staff at the prison's entrance." Justice Secretary David Lammy said, "William Smith is back in custody. The spike in mistaken releases is unacceptable. We're modernizing prison systems, replacing paper with digital tools to cut errors. We're working with police to recapture Brahim Kaddour Sharif." Justice Minister Alex Davies-Jones said prison chiefs were being summoned for a meeting on Thursday, and a team of digital experts had been tasked with overhauling the archaic paper-based system of prisoner records. Ahead of a meeting with ministers, the Prison Governors Association, PGA, described releases in error as neither rare nor hidden, but said the scale of them was deeply concerning, with 262 prisoners released in error in the last full year of reporting. In a statement, the PGA insisted that only 0.5% of prisoners are not released on the correct date. However, they added, while that may appear to be a small percentage, in a system managing tens of thousands of releases and transfers each quarter, it does represent a significant operational failure. The conditions to reduce this figure to zero simply do not exist, the association said. Adding it feels disingenuous to see politicians attempt to extract political gain from a prison system in crisis. Smith, who has links to the Woking area, was freed on Monday and was sentenced to 45 months for multiple fraud offences on the same day he was accidentally released. The BBC reported that a clerical error by a court had led to his release, as he was listed as receiving a suspended sentence, rather than one in custody. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick accepted the last Conservative government's record on prisons was poor and unacceptable, but that ministers had worked to keep people in jail during that time. Mr. Jenrick was pressed about the Tories' record on mistakenly released prisoners on Recently, where Ellie Costello asked the Newark MP about his party's record on the issue. Ellie said, "Back in 2022, 54 prisoners were released in error. In 2023, 71 prisoners were released in error. In 2024, 87 prisoners were released in error. More and more every year." Mr. Jenrick responded saying, "No, this is a new issue. Don't get me wrong, every single criminal released accidentally from our prisons is unacceptable. I don't want to see a single criminal released this way, but something is going badly wrong, and the numbers are rising dramatically. Over the last 10 years, it averaged about 50 criminals being released every year. Last year, it was 262, a 130% increase in a single year. This has been a bad issue for a long time, but it has gotten much worse under this Labour government. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you have not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.